Thank you so much for being here. We are just super excited to be able to have our special panel of ISEF Regeneron individuals. And we have Sohi Patel and we have Smriti Gandhi. And then they'll be with us for the first half of the session. And the second half of the session, we'll be discussing the Science Fair Scholars Program and being able to provide you some information regarding school clubs for scientific research. So at this time, I will give the floor to both Smriti and Sohi. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. So I'm a junior in high school. I'm Sohi Patel, and I've been participating in the Science and Engineering Fair of Houston for both my freshman and sophomore year. And both times I have advanced to ISEF through the Grand Award program at SEFH. And it's just been a really great process, a great journey. And I've learned a lot from ISEF and from SEFH just about science fair and about kind of what I want to do in the future. And Smriti.
Hi, everyone. My name is Smriti. I am a senior now at the University of Houston. I am majoring in honors biomedical sciences, and I actually advanced to ISEF from SEFH in 2018. So that was my senior year of high school. So it's been a while, but I still remember it as one of the best few months of my life, working on a project so closely over the years. It's actually something that I started in freshman year, and then I continued working on it all throughout my 4 years in high school, then advanced to ISEF in senior year. So it was a pretty magical experience, and that week was definitely one of the best weeks of my life. I guess I can go ahead and talk a little bit about my project. So I started in freshman year working on solar panels. I was really interested in seeing how I could improve their efficiency, because solar panels actually aren't all that efficient, which is why, we don't see like a widespread adoption of their use. So I implemented something called bioluminescent bacteria, which has the ability to glow. And I put that into a luminescent solar concentrator. So basically what that is like a sheet of glass, and the solar panel is actually the smallest part of this concentrator. It's on the side, and the bioluminescent bacteria goes on top. So what happens is light hits the bioluminescent bacteria. The bioluminescent bacteria converts that light into wavelengths that are more that the solar panels are more receptive to, and then that gets trapped in the glass layer, and then through refraction and properties of the glass, that light is directed and streamlined towards the solar panel, and then the solar panel's efficiency improves because it's getting light that it can respond better to, and it's getting a greater concentration of that light. So that was my project.
Sohi, would you like to explain your project for this past year, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So my past two projects have been different each year, but they're mostly in chemical engineering and material science surrounding polyurethane foam. Polyurethane foam is a very common material in construction and in a lot of different industries, but the chemicals that are used to make polyurethane foam are very toxic and unsustainably derived. So my project has mainly centered around creating a sustainable, scalable version of polyurethane foam that could easily be implemented in the real world. And my most recent project made 4th place at ISEF in material science, won the EPA's Patrick H. Hurd Sustainability Award at ISEF, and it's currently patent pending. And I hope to continue working in material science these next 2 years of science fair.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Smriti. And Sohi, can you tell us a little bit about your experience? We have attendees at this moment who are either educators and trying to help with their students to get to where you currently are, or we actually have students here who want to be like you as the role models. So can you give them some advice on what that journey actually looks like?
So it definitely takes a while to sort of crack the code, because I've been doing SEFH since 7th grade, and actually in middle school I didn't have a lot of success, but then I started working with other people who had been doing SEFH in like team projects, and I started getting ideas from them. For example, my partner Andy, he was also doing science fair, and he was kind of more physics minded, and I was kind of more biology minded, and then we kind of combined those two areas to create like our project. And also one of our other partners freshman year, he was super into documenting the research process, and he had like the most beautiful lab notebooks with details on basically how we were doing our research and what we were finding, a detailed literature review. So those are things that I could learn from him. So I think that definitely encouraging collaboration, even if you're not working on a team project and there's like people working on different projects. Yes, you may be competing against each other, but it's always important to learn from our fellow scientists, no matter how young we are, I think. So even in high school, I feel like there's a lot of potential there to collaborate and to learn from each other.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Smithy said. And another thing I think people don't always understand coming into science fair is that you don't always need the most professional equipment or the most expensive resources. A lot of science can be conducted just with what you can find around you. There's universities around you that may be willing to lend equipment, and if you have an idea, or if one of your students has an idea, I would never let them be discouraged just because of a lack of resources, because there's always ways to get around that.
Definitely. And I think that it's so important to like my freshman year, I didn't have like the best mentor, and it was really hard to find a mentor in the first place. So I think that definitely not getting discouraged is a very important part of the process, because I think my senior year, I almost didn't do SEFH because I was at that point kind of discouraged by, like not making enough progress and my research or not being recognized for the progress that I was making. But I ended up doing science fair anyway, because my teacher, Miss Garza, she really encouraged me to do it. And that was the year that I advanced to ISEF. So I think that never giving up, even if we don't have the resources or even if we don't have mentors, is really important. And keeping a positive mindset is really important.
That is excellent wisdom by all means. So, how has, now Smitty, I know that you and Sohi were, of course, pre-COVID, but Smitty, you experienced the COVID factor, right? And maybe it might lean a little bit more on your expertise here. So students are currently doing this type of research. Do you have any suggestions for them of how to be able to be creative within a limited time frame? We still are now opening, right? Going back face to face, but sometimes depending on where we are in our circumstances, that may not be completely fruitful for providing all resources. Could you speak to that, please?
So I would definitely encourage students during this time. Like, of course, I participated before COVID, but we had I think we had a hurricane that year, and our school was shut down for a few weeks or a month or so. So I kind of understand that it's difficult to work from home and in a limited space, in a limited time frame with limited resources. But I definitely think that kind of just reaching out to people is so important. Like I was speaking about my freshman mentor, and I was talking about how it was difficult for me to find a mentor in the first place. I think it's definitely important to like kind of Google search like who might be like I literally just Google searched students who are interested in this, or PhD students who are interested in this in the Houston area. And then I found a PhD student who was working on solar panels and another PhD student who was working on like bioluminescent bacteria. And I just shot both of them an email and I was like, hey, look, I'm interested in this and I really need a mentor. And I was wondering if you would be willing to mentor me. And, I sent a lot of those emails out, like 20 or so, and I finally got like a few responses. So it's so important to just kind of reach out to people during this time who can help you. And yeah, you might not get a response immediately, but you can't lose hope. You just got to keep emailing people and reaching out to people.
Yeah, honestly, along those same lines, the project that I completed last year during COVID, it was incredibly hard finding a lab. And I think at one point, all of my teachers were telling me to do a data project or do something that I wouldn't really need to have a lab for, because even then our high school labs were not open because we were really cracking down on COVID at that time. But I kept a spreadsheet, I remember, of just colleges and universities that I could reasonably get to just in our area. And I was reaching out to them incessantly over a week or so, just pitching myself, trying to sell myself as a researcher, as someone that could work in the labs. And then finally I was able to get just 1 week of lab time. And during that time I was in the lab, I think 13 to 14 hours a day, because they only had a week open for me. But I mean, really, it's just like Smithy said, that perseverance and that determination, even through COVID or through other circumstances.
And it's really important to plan too ahead of time because, like, so he said she only had like a week to get her experiment done. So that means she must have had the literature review, her research, her hypothesis, everything that happens before experimentation done before then. And the same thing happened with me. Like, we had planned for our experimentation over winter break. So I made sure that everything was done before winter break and everything was I had ordered everything. I had everything ready to go. I knew exactly how I was going to collect my data. So I didn't have to kind of take time or take my mentor's time or the lab's time doing that, figuring out all of that. So I think you have to plan ahead of time if you want to work under like a specific time frame. So, Sohi, can you tell me a little bit about, you said that your experience with science fair has really kind of molded what you're going to do with your career. Can you speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was never really huge in STEM in middle school and in elementary school. I always thought I wanted to be an author or something in that area. And then I started doing science fair more heavily in high school. And it was just like crazy interesting with the research in academia. And I mean, now I love chemistry. I think I'm pretty set on doing some sort of research or in chemistry, some sort of academic pursuit in my career. So it's really shaped the way for that. Just the science fair process, the scientific method, all of that. I think it really helps give students a strong base.
And you said you're working on a patent for your project. How did you get that process started? And what does that process look like for you right now?
Yeah, so that was really another just cold emailing people type of process. I was reaching out to people trying to see if anyone would be willing to be like a patent attorney kind of situation, and I wrote the patent myself and had them revise it. And I'm actually trying to get my product licensed to a company, and I've been in and out of those meetings all this past month. And it's been a great process because even from the beginning, my science fair project was something that I wanted to implement in the real world. And that was the end goal. And that's something that I'm still trying to continue, even starting a new project this year.
Yeah, that's really nice that you were able to carry that through, because I had that in mind as well. As I want to patent my project, I want to make it useful to the real world. But I unfortunately, it was really hard for me to find sponsorship for my project. And I had a couple of offers and, they fell through. So it was really difficult for me to do that. But I think that what I ended up doing was, I published my paper in Columbia University's journal. So I think that was something that I wanted to do that I still could do, even though I couldn't do a patent, was get the word out about my research. So that was a good process, I think, for me to go through as well. So how do you see your science fair experience kind of impacting you as a college student and in the workplace?
Yeah, no, that's incredible. You were able to publish your paper. I think going into college, as a high school junior right now, I'm really undecided on what I want to major in, where I want to go. I find that everything I read about I'm interested in, which leaves a lot of room for what I want to do in my future. But it's definitely going to be something STEM related, just something I know I can work with well and I can help the world in a lot. And then career wise, I'm thinking research, again, research or academia. It's always interested me, and being able to actually innovate in the workplace rather than just, do desk work is what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, so I actually ended up, choosing a completely different career than my science fair project. So I worked on the bioluminescent solar concentrator, which of course is for solar panels. But then now I'm majoring in honors biomedical sciences and wanting to become a doctor. I'm actually in the process of applying to medical schools right now. But I think that science fair is still so important, even if you're not going into the field that your project is in, because I think that it'll always have a special place in my heart. And I learned so much about discipline, planning, competing, collaborating through science fair that I definitely have taken, now into the workplace. I work with the UH STEM Center, and it's so important to have all those skills that we learned through science fair, especially collaboration, in my opinion, was like so important, because you're not going to always agree with your partner or your team member, but you got to find a way to collaborate and come up with a compromise. And I think that that's been really just very important for me to learn through science fair, especially coming into college and the workplace. And also, I mentioned discipline. Like, we research for so many months, and it's something that you have to like keep up with for all those months. And I think that really prepares you for college, because college is, not like high school. You learn a lot in just one semester, and just having that discipline of regularly studying, regularly researching is kind of really inherent to your success in college. So, hey, would you like to tell us a little bit about your ISEF experience in particular? Like, how did that week go for you? What were some things that you got to do, even though I know it was online? So, how did it go?
Yeah, sure. First off, those are definitely lifelong skills you're learning at science fair, so absolutely correct. For us, if both years it was virtual, the first year there was very little infrastructure set up. I mean, COVID had just become a huge thing, and we still got to get some feedback from the different fairs. So really kudos to ISEF for being able to set that up. And then this year we had a week of ISEF, and it was really interesting. They had a few different platforms where we were able to attend workshops. We got to interact with people in our team, in our categories. We had these like category receptions. The judging was kind of the same for every fair. It was just interviews, and also the judges would kind of read about your project on their own when you would like input slideshows and stuff. And I think it was a good, it must have been a little easier on the judges to just not have to do all of it in one day and be able to spread it out over weeks. And for us, I think it may have been easier for some people. It was definitely just different, but it was still an important experience to be able to get ideas across through a screen that you need to develop those skills in life. I mean, not everything's going to be in-person conversations, and it was really an interesting week. I think we all learned a lot. I got to meet some great people. And I mean, I'd love to go to ISEF in person, but it was it was really good for an online for what they had to work with. It was really nice.
Yeah, that was sort of my experience too. But of course, we were lucky enough to be there in person, so that was nice. But it was very a transformative week. I think I learned so much by meeting other people in my category and across the world, because like people really do come from across the world, and they have similar ideas as you, similar interests as you, and it's so interesting to have those conversations with them in this environment where it's very conducive to learning and collaboration. So it was a really good experience for me too. And I just think that I hope you guys get to have it in person this year, and I hope you make it. I'm sure you will, but I hope that you get that in-person experience, because it's definitely, I think, different than talking through a screen. But for me, the interviews were similar to kind of what we have at SEFH. So you give your kind of elevator speech to the judge. And this term elevator speech was actually something that was given to me by one of my district grand award judges. Before then, I was always kind of rambling on about my project. I'd go through like each of the different categories, like here's my purpose, here's my hypothesis, here's my background research, and then so on, and describe everything in so much detail. And that judge really just corrected me, and he was like, you need to talk to me like you're selling me something. Like, I'm not going to want to listen to your whole research paper or your research project, but I want to know like the main gist. So I think that really transformed the way that I give public speeches, because you gotta make it flow. Basically, you can't just be like, this is my purpose, this is my hypothesis. So I think that was a very important part of cracking the code, was that elevator speech, giving kind of starting off with the background research and then building up to like the hypothesis. This is what we'll think will happen, this is how we carried out the research, and then these are the main conclusions that we drew from our results. So I think that really transformed the way that I give speeches, and it helped me at ISEF, even what those words from the district judge just helped me so much at ISEF. And because at ISEF, I feel like everything is just so fast paced. They come and they have like one of my judges like even set like a timer. I have this much time to like get to you, because like you said, it's probably nice to spread it out in a few days instead of having to do it all at once. But for me, it was definitely all at once. And so those elevator speeches were like really important to just get the point across. So yeah.
So we have a question in the chat. It says, I'm a rookie to science research and science fair. Are there any opportunities for college-age students to serve as mentors? And how can I help my students find a mentor for a research project? So Smitty, you're in that particular realm right now of this is your 4th year now of college, and Sohi, you're almost there. So that'd be a great conversation for both sides.
Like I said, it's pretty difficult to find mentors for these projects. A lot of our college students are pretty busy all the time. But like I said, what really helped me was just emailing a whole bunch of different people, and kind of just having a template for what I wanted to say, and then copy pasting it into different emails to all different kinds of institutions. There's clubs here at the University of Houston that kind of do this mentoring or volunteering thing. So Googling and searching out these institutions and organizations, and then reaching out to them via email or setting up a Zoom meeting might be helpful, because those organizations are specifically for students who have the time and want to help students succeed in STEM. So I think that would be my advice.
Yeah, and on my end, I haven't actually gone out and tried to find a mentor for science fair yet. It's definitely something that's might be something I want to look into in the future. But like Smithy said, networking super important. Being able to make connections that last with people in your community that you can then use later and kind of get the most out of those connections is super important. And yeah, there's plenty of clubs at different colleges, universities. that are cut out just for this. It's just a matter of reaching out to them and kind of getting to know the people around you, getting to know your community and the different resources it can offer.
And thank you so much, Smriti and Sohi, for providing us your feedback on that. And I could say, from the administrative point of view, in regards to SEFH, we can definitely work with students. So if they would like to provide us with what is their specific information, their research, their background, what does that match to the chart? Are they biochemical, biochemistry? Are they looking for engineering? And in doing so, we could do our best at the University of Houston. We do have some good of a list of mentors that we could help to be able to match, or if not, approach professors. I know that a lot of our professors, now that our University of Houston is open, their labs are open as well. And so that could entertain the fact of having some of your students participate in lab experiences and then be able to take a part of that experience and present it for the work that they specifically did in that lab at Science and Engineering Fair of Houston.
I think it's too late for this year, but there are a lot of summer internships available for high school students that I even applied to as a high schooler. I just kind of Googled summer internships or summer STEM internships for high schoolers, and then I just kind of applied to a whole bunch, and then from there received acceptances. I didn't end up using that project for my science fair project, but I do know that a lot of students will work under a professor through those internships. For example, there's one at UTMB, there's one at McGovern, and through those internships, they just kind of develop their science fair project, and they have those resources readily available to them through the internship. And then once they complete their project, they can just do their science fair project out of that project and present it at SEFH.
So I know that, this is actually a session where we are fortunate to have kind of a split conversation of one, we have our ISEF awardees and experiences, and then also we have our Science Fair Scholars Club. So be able to, though, kind of close out the panel here of the experts of Smriti and Sohi. Would you like to say a few closing words of maybe words of wisdom or suggestions for both the participants as well as the educators?
I guess I'd just like to say that everyone should keep, a positive mindset. Like I said before, it's just so important. And lately, like through COVID, I think that I really realized that, when I was doing work before, I used to kind of treat it as like, oh, I want to get that A, or I want to get that award, or I want to, I was always thinking of the end goal or the end motivation, but really the biggest motivation is just trying to learn from the process and growing as a person. And that's something that I've realized over my past couple of years in college. And I've really changed the way that I approach my work in college, my work at the STEM Center, my internships, everything. And I just think that being in the moment and just wanting to learn has even made it more possible for me to achieve my goals, rather than just thinking of, oh, I want that A. Actually being in the moment and wanting to learn has, earned more A's for me than ever before. So I think that it's really important to have that mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that I had said before about the encouragement from both an educator and a participant standpoint, making sure to never discourage yourself or your students against an idea they may have, I think is super important. We have a sign in the Woodlands near the Houston area that says, I think, dream it, do it. And that's something that I try to live by. If you have an idea and if you can dream something, you can absolutely do it. Even if it's just a little part, you don't have to complete the entire crazy project in 1 year, but you can definitely make progress towards it. And often coming up with the idea is the hardest part. And so once you have an idea that you or your student is passionate about, definitely following through with that passion is super important.
Absolutely excellent words of wisdom to be able to close with. I want to thank you so much for this part of the session, for Smriti and for Sohi to spend your time this afternoon to be able to share your expertise and your capabilities of, where you've taken your research and where it's currently going to go as well. Because so you're on your way, and you were actually at the Museum of Natural Science as an intern. And so, with being at the science fair, you have those capabilities to do that. And Smitty, you're on your way to being that doctor. So we're looking forward to seeing where your career paths take you. So thank you so much for being here. Appreciate the conversation.
Thank you so much.
So at this time, I'd like to introduce the Science Fair Scholars Club. Science Fair Scholars was initiated about a year and a half ago, of course. There's two co-founders. There's Emma Johnson, and then there's also another student. And so that individual has gone off a couple of years ago for college, and now we have Emma Johnson, who's now brand new into college at the University of Houston. But she's here to be able to support students and to be a student-led, student-run scholars at your campuses. So thank you so much, Emma. Do you have a PowerPoint to show, or are you going to be a conversation?
I do have a PowerPoint. I actually have a few things.
Okay, absolutely. You should be able to share.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to first start off before I shared my screen and just welcome everyone. I hope you're having a great afternoon, and I hope you've had some great sessions so far. And I hope you're enjoying your day. So I want to get a feel of how many of you are new to Science Fair. You could just raise your hand or put it in the chat. I just want to get a feel of how many of you are new. Okay, great. Well, I'm so glad that you're here. I actually grew up doing Science Fair through the Science Engineering Fair of Houston for about 6 years. So I started when I was in 7th grade and went all the way to my senior year of high school. So that was a big chunk of my life. And so I'm always open to helping any of your students if they need help. I'm always available to give them either like guidance or mentorship if they need it, or even just help them if they're stuck on a question. So let me go ahead and share my screen to introduce Science Fair Scholars. So I first want to do this. There we go. Okay. So at the beginning, I did create a website for Science Fair Scholars. So this is kind of like the general website. It is going to go under a little construction because on the About Us, I had the school I went to with my sponsor teacher. And so that will be taken down and changed a bit, but the rest of the bulk of the website will stay the same. So here it says inspiring STEM education, because of course that's what it's all about, is inspiring the future generation of STEM education. And so when exploring STEM through Science Fair, there are a bunch of leadership opportunities that they can gain either from starting their own club or just doing Science Fair in general. If they do start their own club, of course, they are going to be the president. And then there can be multiple positions available, like a vice president or ambassador that can be working alongside them. There are volunteer opportunities. So I don't know if y'all's districts require for clubs that are started to have volunteer opportunities or volunteer hours included. I know for the district that I went to, Fort Bend, they did require it. And so there, I worked with a few programs. One of them was the U of H STEM Zone Saturdays, which happens once a month every Saturday. And so what we'll do is we'll work with elementary through high school students, and we'll teach them about STEM careers and do some STEM activities with them. And that is a great way to get help volunteer if your school does recommend it, because it gives them that leadership opportunity, the teaching experience, communication skills, as well as learning more about the STEM opportunities in the world. Also, another great opportunity for starting with the club is to go to elementary and middle schools that are aligned with your school and teach them some STEM projects. So since the Science Fair is including 6th grade this year, it would be a great opportunity to get them involved, because some of them won't know about that 6th grade is included. And so when you go there, you can help the students doing their science fair projects in the club can actually go to the middle school and help mentor those students. And so it's giving back through that chain. And then, of course, the benefits of doing the science fair, they can win scholarships, paid internships like the Houston Museum of Natural Science. Just like you heard from Sohi, I was also there this summer interning as well. I've been able to do that since my freshman year of high school. And so it's a great opportunity, and especially getting to present. I was there for the Apollo 50th celebration. And so I got to meet some of the original Apollo mission commanders. And so just those unique opportunities those students can get, even, they might think, oh, it's just an internship, but there's so much more to the internships than they actually know. And that's the same with science fair, because science fair, there's kind of the stigma on it of, oh, you just do a volcano project. No, I've seen people make their mentor walk again, or do all of these amazing things like creating oil head for the ocean. And so there's just so much more behind science fair than the name actually holds to it. And so, of course, they get to work with like-minded peers, do their research and science projects. They can work in teams up to 3 people. And then, of course, there are 2 other opportunities, the poster contest and the writing technical paper, which they would write a manuscript over the project they just researched. That's a great opportunity. I just did it this year. It seems hard, but it's really not, because it's just all of that information that they just researched and wrote down. They're just putting it into an essay format. And so it's a great opportunity for them. So here we have volunteer opportunities, which links to the outreach, which I'll show you in a minute. And then down here, I usually update this of meetings and then a science fair video. So for some of you that are new, I will show this video. Some of you may already know what the science fair looks like, but this video was taken before COVID. And so this is kind of how it would look like whenever we go back from COVID.
It's been a most rewarding experience. I am truly impressed by the level of sophistication on problems, technical problems that face society today, and they're coming up with these tremendously innovative solutions. I think we have to find a way to support these young people. It is important for the future of our society in a global arena. We've got to support these young people and encourage them to continue their intellectual support in the STEM area in order that our society will continue to grow and lead the world.
All these students getting involved with STEM-related stuff, because they are the future of the country, but they're also the future of the world, both in terms of developing solutions that we have to deal with, whether it's a new aeroplane or a new cell phone, but also dealing with things like global warming and things like this. You need to have these people involved, because they're also the future of the economy of this country.
To see what these middle school kids have come up with and made things work. I mean, they're talking about science and projects and ideas that I didn't even think about until we were maybe in college, and pushing ideas that I hadn't even heard of. So it's just fascinating of what the young minds can do as long as we can nurture it and make things happen.
Some critics say that those who can't do teach. I hate it when I hear that. But I don't know the teachers these folks are referring to. The teachers I know can. They can nurture young scientists, they can fuel innovation, they can inspire future leaders, they can and they do.
Whether you are fascinated by social and behavioral sciences, you yearn to explore the galaxies, or you prefer to build computers, robots, and the transport devices that will get us there, the underlying methodologies and thought processes are based in the application of the scientific method. Over the last few months, our participants have been applying the scientific method to their projects and asking the two most important questions on the road to the discovery of any new invention. Why? And what if I? Those are the two things that drive science. Curiosity and creativity are closely linked qualities that are at the heart of all scientists, engineers, and mathematicians. And these are the traits that will drive innovation.
Thanks for what y'all do here, your leaders putting this program on. Thanks for the mothers and the parents for teaching their kids and working on these programs. And for you students that have spent so much time and effort.
Okay. So that's just a little bit of what science fair looked like before COVID. Of course, that's so important to show what it looked like beforehand because so much has changed since then. So now we're going to get into a little bit about Science for Scholars. So the Science for Scholars Club was created to bring science fair to high schools and now middle schools, to schools who may not have that competition. So in Fort Bend, when they get to high school, there is no science fair competition. They had it 7th through 8th grade, but they cut it off right at when you get to high school. And so for students who have that like fire for STEM and want to do these projects, it kind of gave them an unfair advantage because they had no way of doing those competitions or knowing how to get those opportunities. And so that's why I wanted to create Science for Scholars. And so I went to the U of H STEM Center since it was with the regional fair, and we kind of created this club under the umbrella of the U of H STEM Center of Science for Scholars. And then we also allow the students to, of course, have those leadership roles, and it really is a student-run club. So as teacher sponsors and mentors, you'd be there to help if they had any questions, give them guidance if they don't know the answer, but we really want Science for Scholars to be a student-run organization. So here we have started a club. Of course, this slide right here will be being updated. So we do have a flyer that is I will give out, and that can actually be updated to your customization for your school. And then here I have a project timeline. So of course you can put your school logo there. And then this kind of gives your students from the club a timeline of when things need to be due, because with science fair, it's so overwhelming, all of the information that you have to do. You know, you have to get that hypothesis, get that research. And for some people, if they don't have a strict timeline, they'll get I call it researcher's block, because you're looking at so many ideas and you just get so overwhelmed, you don't know what to do or like which way to choose. And so this will really help them and guide them into a smooth transition of doing science fair for the first time, or even some of the pros that have done science fair still need this help just to help guide them along. So this is something that I do love to give out just to help. And then we also have bylaws that you can use for your club. The bylaws are just the rules and standards that are for the club specifically. And so what we would love for you to have you do is if you do start this club at your school, we would love, I've helped students start their own club in Katy and A-Leaf. And so if you want to start it at your school, I would love to help you, as it would be under the Science for Scholars name. So it would just, for example, when I was at Travis, it was named Travis High School Science for Scholars. And then there's one at Seven Lakes and Tompkins High School in Jordan. And so it would go under the Science for Scholars name, but it's specific to your school. So it doesn't have, like, each club doesn't have to do the same exact thing, but it was just under the umbrella. And each month we try to have at least one meeting, either at the beginning or the end of the month, for just the presidents of the club to do a check-in on, hey, how are you doing? Do you need any help or guidance? And we might be able to provide that to you from the U of H STEM Center, as well as from the Science for Scholars founder point of view. Another thing I am working on, which I would love to get your input on and your information, as I am actually creating a handbook right now to kind of help guide students along for wanting to start their own club, of how this club should get started, if there's paperwork that your school has to go through, how to obtain that paperwork, and the steps that they might need, because starting a club on their own is very overwhelming. Even if you have a teacher to help you, sometimes they can't reach that teacher when they need it. So having this handbook will help them a lot, guide them, especially you as a teacher and a mentor. You can read over it and kind of be like, hey, make sure you need to do this during the club. And so if you wanted to put your contact information, your email in the chat, and once I finish it, I'm hoping to finish it actually by tonight. I'll show you a snippet of it so far. I will send that out to you immediately. Yes, I will provide the website for the my website. Okay, so is this okay? There's that website. And so then let me show you real fast. I think it's right there. Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 minute. Let's stop sharing real fast. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. So here you can see is sort of the beginning of the handbook. So what will happen is, as you go through it, so it will show you why run a student-led Science for Scholars Club. And so it talks about the benefits, which I just talked to you about from the website. And then throughout the handbook, it will actually have some testimonies, which I always love to get from either previous SEFH alumni or club members. And so they'll be scattered throughout there. That way, the new presidents of the presidents of the club or any of the ambassadors or anything can actually read those testimonies and let their club members know, hey, these people went through this for all of these years. You can do it too. It may be hard at that moment, but you can still do it. And then there's also how to start your own club. So this one, there we go, is kind of a vital one. So it shows them how they might need to start it. So let's see. Okay, there we go. So it's going to show how to set up the club, recruiting your student ambassadors. So your school may have actually it may be a little late for orientations, but I know that during lunches, sometimes schools allow clubs to come out and show their information. And so that's a great way to get advertisement, putting posters around the school. So that talks a bit about that. And here you can see arranging your club's meetings. And so this will go through possibly what week 1 through 5 will look like. And of course, it's not going to be a 5-week-long club. It will be longer than that. However, when you get to about week 4, when research really starts to happen in the club, The club meetings will be a bit more sporadic. It may be 4 weeks or more that students are still doing research and need that break to their own just to focus on research and not attend the club meetings. And so it will be really, the meetings will be based on a need basis. And so that kind of just shows them a general guideline of what should happen each meeting. So of course, the first meeting, there should be an introduction overview of the mission of the club, timings and expectations. And then I always say the first 10 to 15 minutes of the first club meeting should be icebreakers, as well as discussing the main regional fair competition, the poster contest, and writing contest. And then that one I'm still working on, but this is kind of an overview. So it would talk about, of course, health and safety planning sessions, STEM ambassadors, safeguarding, and then planning club meetings, launching, and club events. So what I always like to do is have the new clubs, since I'm no longer running mine at the school I went to. There's a new president. What we kind of did was we started to, at the end of the year, include inaugurations into it. So sort of like NHS does. They inaugurate you at the end of the year into the club. And so that way you could become an ambassador or anything you want. So at the end, hold like a little mini ceremony for them with a certificate. So even though if they do attend the science fair and don't win anything, at the end of the year, they still do get recognition for what they have done. And then I think the last page that I was just working on, and we'll get more information to it, yes, is evaluating your Science Fair Scholars Club. So of course, encouraging student ambassadors and members to kind of reflect on it. So yes, they are writing a journal for Science Fair of all the research that they just done, but it helps so much for them to reflect through that process to see what maybe they could do different next year. Because I know so many times when I was in Science Fair, I wish I would have reflected back on what I did and like had that information written down. So that way I knew what I could improve on for that following year. And another thing that's cool is with this club, you can actually create your own website like I did specifically for your school. A few clubs have already done that. And so there you can put your information of when's your next club meeting, any reminders that your club members need to know. Also at the end of the year during the inauguration, you could actually ask them for a quote of their testimony and put that on the website as, let me see, as I did here. So if I go back on the website and go home to the home page, I can scroll down. And when I go all the way down to the bottom after this, these are all of the testimonies that I've gotten so far. And so here you can see there's a University of Houston undergraduate that he was a SEFH alumni. One's at Nova Southeastern University in Florida. And then there's a few that were still in high school. And so that is a great thing to show, because when starting a new club, you want to have that reputation of and like helping students guide through along and giving them inspiration, because I know I've said it a few times, but and I'm pretty sure everyone else would agree that science fair is a big toll for some students. And if they're freshmen in school, it will be an adjustment, since they are adjusting to school and now doing this at the same time. So just having guidelines and anything that they need to help, and any resources that we can give you to help them are always available. I will put my email in the chat. Okay, let me do that real fast. So here you can always contact me and I will answer your emails if you ever need anything. And then I will take your emails. And once that handbook is finished tonight, I plan on finishing it hopefully later this afternoon. I will send it out immediately to you. That way y'all can start looking at it and making adjustments that you need to start the club at your school. Do any of you have any questions? see.
Emma, I'm a teacher at Miller Career Center in Katy, Texas.
Yeah.
And last year, long story short, I won a grant to encourage students to enter science fair and learn kind of in the last week that I was supposed to have a review committee and IRB and all these things, and had to become really the district, I guess, the district science fair coordinator. They set me up with a bunch of access so I could get kids to do that. So I was curious about, I heard you mention Seven Lakes, Tompkins, and Jordan high schools.
Yeah.
So they currently have science fairs. Are they competing at the Houston Science Fair? How are they?
Yeah. So for Katy, I do know that like Fort Bend, they don't have a main fair. However, they did start their own club. And so what happens in Katy, and this may happen for some of y'all that don't have science fairs in your district, for at least high school, I don't know about middle schools, is what will happen is they do their project and they directly go to the regional fair. So they don't have to go through any district competition. They get that straight away golden ticket to go straight there.
Okay.
Yes.
Your program, this is super exciting, by the way, the
I'm
scholars.
so glad.
Like I actually just won another, there's another grant that I'm supposed to connect a student to a mentor.
Yes.
And I'm just now starting to feel grounded enough to where I can start focusing on that again.
Yeah.
So you're going to be one of my first groups I hit up and reach out to in some emails.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
Awesome.
I'm always happy to help mentor in any way possible I can.
Very cool. Is your email with a 5?
Yes,
That's correct, right?
correct.
Okay, just checking.
Oh, perfect. I see that you're the sponsor at Jordan. That's awesome. Yeah. I'm so glad that
Contacting her too.
I'm so glad we were able to get over into Katy.
I couldn't hear you, Susan. Go ahead.
I said, I don't know any more than you, Dallas. I don't know if contacting me is the thing to do.
I will having another person to just talk to, it'd be great. I learned a lot last year, and I'm learning a lot in this thing today. So
yeah.
Cool.
Well, we want to thank so much for once again, our ISEF awardees, and for Emma Johnson for providing the information about Science Fair Scholars. We are completely excited to have this opportunity for our students to be able to become leaders in their school and take that leadership quality both in the scientific community as well as in their careers as they move forward. So I want to thank you for this information. And once again, if you have any others, we will provide information thereafter this session for our seminar. And so thank you, everyone. And we're about to get ready for our next session. I would like to tell you that for those of you who are currently here, we have a special guest from NASA. If you'd like to stay on and with this link, we have Mr. Stephen Smith, who will be joining us just momentarily.